is it ever going to be done? Will the work ever be done?
Right.
Are we going to complete the core at some point? And he said, no, you can't rest on your laurels, else you're going to stagnate. And a stagnant city doesn't bring in big conventions, doesn't attract big businesses. So the work really is never done.
We are cutting out today's traditional Big Bite so we can talk to Andy Brownfield, Business Courier Managing Editor and the host of the Above the Fold podcast, so we can learn more about this pod being brought back. Happy to have Andy on the show. Andy Brownfield, welcome to the Working Lunch. Glad to have you on.
Hey, thanks. I'm thrilled to be here. I just discovered your TikTok channel and was happy to get a call.
Oh, gosh. Well, that's very flattering. We're huge on TikTok. That's great. Listen, hey, congratulations on bringing the pod back. Was there a specific motivation? You guys did this podcast for a while, and now you're bringing it back.
Yeah, so we did it for about a year in 2022-23, and it was a one-man band. I was just a reporter back then, so I was producing the podcast, editing it, publishing it, booking guests.
That's a ton of work.
It is a lot of work for one person. So when I got tapped to become managing editor, it was just too much to shoulder. But since then, we've got a whole corporate podcast team that can take care of the stuff that I don't really want to do. So I get to focus on, talking to some of the biggest names like Steve Leeper in Cincinnati and working with Tom Demeropoulos, our editor, to bring people the 5 biggest news stories of the week. Yeah,
and then the exclusive interviews like that with Leeper. What were some of the big things that Steve told you in that interview? 3CDC, a major nonprofit working, developing all sorts of parts of the city. What were some of the takeaways from that interview?
Well, I think it was kismet because before that interview, we were talking with Chris Wederick, our politics and development reporter, and he said we should ask Steve, when are they going to close on financing for the headquarters hotel by the convention center?
Oh, sure.
And sure enough, during that taping, Steve said, well, actually, we're closing on that today as we speak. So it was a bit of a newsroom moment. We had to rush and get out that story. But in addition to talking about the convention center hotel and just the importance of that district to downtown Cincinnati's development, Steve kind of walked us through just the progress we've made as an urban core in the last 20 years with 3CDC being around, the investment they've made, and how they're kind of trying to tie it all together. It's not just over the Rhine, it's not just the Fountain District, it's not just Court Street, but really what they're doing to make a cohesive core in Cincinnati.
Yeah, and I think one of the untold stories about the change that maybe more urban downtown core has seen that Steve brought up on the show was the money that they're getting from parking now. $3,900 a space, which is up about $1,000 from what they were doing in 2019, but that's not the result of a rate increase. So many people complain about parking and parking rates, but in terms of those 3CDC spots, it's just volume that they're seeing more of.
Absolutely. I think the pandemic really cratered parking downtown. It created all kinds of activity downtown. And I remember those days of 2020, 2021, walking around and just being a ghost town. But since then, downtown's really rebounded. You've got companies like Kroger now requiring their employees to be in 5 days a week. And it's just the sheer volume, as you said, of people visiting, working, dining downtown that's really brought up that parking revenue. I think that's more of a testament to just the activity and the population that's been coming downtown than it is to anything 3CDC itself has done to boost that revenue.
Yeah, one of the other themes I got from Steve's interview with you guys was the idea of not taking your foot off the gas, seeing tremendous development and growth over the last 20 years and looking to keep that momentum going.
Absolutely. One of my biggest questions for him is it ever going to be done? Will the work ever be done?
Right.
Are we going to complete the core at some point? And he said, no, you can't rest on your laurels, else you're going to stagnate. And a stagnant city doesn't bring in big conventions, doesn't attract big businesses. So the work really is never done.
Yeah, well, and all the work that was done in, so let's call it the main part of Over the Rhine over the last 20 years, but there's still a lot of development that's being planned for that area north of Liberty. Certainly TQL has a bunch of plans for everything around its stadium in the West End area. There's still a lot of room to grow, and boy, having Steve on there, that's a great coup, being able to talk about that from his perspective.
Absolutely. It's our goal to have these conversations with some of the biggest names in Cincinnati business and civic life, and Steve's just the first. We've been conducting a bunch of interviews, and we're excited to roll those out to people.
How are things managing and editing as the managing editor of the Business Courier? I think you guys do tremendous work. I've had the pleasure of talking with Steve Watkins and Chris Wederick on the show. Jamie Smith was our very first guest. From your perspective, how are things at the paper?
Thanks. That's super kind of you to say. I think that we are filling a critical need in a city like Cincinnati. We've got reporters on the ground talking to people every day, and that's a thing that, especially in this age of AI, is, I think, crucial, is building relationships with people, developing sources, talking to business leaders in our community instead of just going out and amplifying or boosting something you read in a Facebook post or a press release. And it's something that our reporters and our editors really try to do is bring that local business intelligence from people who are out there doing it in Cincinnati.
You've always been a print guy, but now that you're doing this podcast, which, by the way, congratulations on getting more work put on your plate.
Yeah, right.
Do you find that the way that you interview somebody has to be different when you're sitting in a room with them for a live recording versus maybe something over the phone or just something you're going to take notes and pull quotes from?
I don't think so, because it's always been my approach to interviewing to more have a conversation with people. I think it's a lot more natural that way, instead of going in with a list of 10 questions and sticking to that, on to the next one, to really let the flow of conversation guide you. Find out what they're interested in talking about and how you can build off that and really get to the kernel of what is the news, what is the personality behind the headline.
Yeah, sure. And sometimes that takes a little bit of digging when you got the person sitting in there live with you. How often's the pod coming out?
It's coming out weekly. It drops early mornings on Monday, and you can get it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We have a page on our website that hosts it, and really any major podcasting platform.
Yeah. Who's the guest coming up for this Monday, or is that like a secret kind of thing?
Not a secret at all. We've got Bobby Slattery, who's the CEO of 50 West Brewing, and he's really been a leading voice in the charge to legalize hemp-derived THC for beverages in Ohio. It was kind of a blindside moment when Governor DeWine signed an executive order outlawing all hemp-derived THC, and it was really big business for some of these local breweries, brewing their own and also contract brewing for others. And he's been spending a lot of time in Columbus lobbying with the state legislature, which did carve out the industry, but that was line item vetoed by DeWine. So he's really been at the forefront of that push in Ohio, and he's going to be our guest next week.
Yeah, and also Bobby's a really talkative guy, so I'm sure the good luck to the editing crew on the corporate side of things handling that, because Bobby's a wealth of knowledge, and yeah, he knows a lot about what the inner workings of this ongoing battle over THC drinks is.
Yep, he was a great interview, and can't wait for people to hear him.
Well, that's coming out Monday. Andy Brownfield, managing editor at the Cincinnati Business Courier and the host of the new and returning Above the Fold podcast. You can listen to that wherever you get your podcast. There we go. Nice logo there. Andy, thanks very much for coming on the show.